Hello everyone, welcome back to Becca's Book Nook. Today I'm going to be talking about my favorite romance books. As I have mentioned previously in other videos, I have only just recently begun to get more into contemporary romance, rom-com books, since I went through sort of a massive reading slump throughout March after I finished Chain of Iron. The book just left me very destroyed and I couldn't get into any other books until I decided to pick up a little contemporary romance. As the months have continued to go on, I have found myself absolutely loving everything contemporary romance. I've been finding so many new favorites, new favorite authors as well, and I've just absolutely fallen in love with the genre, so I'm here to share some of my favorites with you guys. Majority of these books are pretty basic recommendations, I suppose, because I did find them all over Book Talk and BookTube and Bookstagram, and that's sort of where I discovered them and where I first decided to read them. So most of you have probably heard of these contemporary romances before, but I am going to talk about them and sort of read the synopsis for them to show those of you who have never heard of these books what they are about and why you should read them. So without further ado, I am just going to jump right into the recommendations. I hope you all enjoy this video because I have just absolutely loved all of these books I'm going to be sharing with you all today and can't wait to hopefully inspire other people to read them. The first author I'm going to be discussing today is Sally Thorne. She has 3 books out, and her very first one, The Hating Game, her debut novel, is the book that got me out of my reading slump and into contemporary romance in the first place. The Hating Game is an enemies to lovers office romance about Lucy and Joshua, who work together at a publishing firm, and I believe both of them were in 2 separate publishing firms, and then they had to merge together, and they have the same position with the 2 firms. They're both under secretary to the head of the publishing firms, and they both just absolutely hate each other, or they believe that they hate each other, but really the hatred has just sort of sparked this really hot tension between them, and obviously it's enemies to lovers, so they do get together, and so we sort of get to see their feelings change from this absolute hatred for each other to eventually caring for each other and seeing if they ever actually really hated each other at all. This book is absolutely amazing. It 100% got me out of my slump. I read it in a day. Yeah, I think I read it in a day, in just a couple hours. It's, I don't know, 300 pages or something. It's just pretty short, but I absolutely loved it. It really reminded me of this Netflix movie, Set It Up. I don't know if anyone has seen that, but it's about these 2 people from separate offices that are trying to set their bosses up. So it's not really the same premise, but it just sort of gave me the same vibes. It's really amazing. It's being turned into a movie, which I am so excited for. Lucy Hale is playing our protagonist, and yeah, it's just a really great book. Sally Thorne is a wonderful author. I've mentioned before that I've never read anything by an author that described things the way Sally Thorne does. Just makes me really feel like I'm properly immersed in the story and like I'm a character in it. After I read The Hating Game, I wanted to jump right into Sally Thorne's other novels. Her second novel that she came out with is called 99% Mine, and her third one is Second First Impressions. 99% Mine is about Darcy, who is a twin. She's a little bit flighty. She doesn't like to stay in one place at once. She likes to travel all around the world, and she has a heart condition, so she wants to not get pity from other people, and she wants to travel and do everything she can. Her grandmother has recently passed away and left her and her twin the house that she owned when she was alive, and it is their job in her will to fix up the house and sell it, and whatever money the house gets is their inheritance. Darcy and her brother got into this huge spat about something to do with a contractor. I don't really remember all the details exactly, but they're in a huge fight at the moment, and Darcy's twin's best friend, Tom, is coming to help work on the house because he's a contractor, and he's gonna just help hire a team to fix up the house. But Darcy has been absolutely in love with Tom since she was 8 years old, so it's this big friends to lovers sort of story, but He's always been sort of off limits for Darcy because he belongs to her twin brother, and I'm pretty sure Tom feels the same way. He feels like he belongs to her brother and can't be hers, so she wants to end up having Thomas be 99% hers and share the other 1% with her brother. This story ends up being really beautiful, super spicy, it's really amazing, and I just loved watching Tom and Darcy realize that they could be together. And that he didn't belong to her brother, and it was just a really great story. I really enjoyed it. It's my favorite one out of these 3 books. Second first impressions is about Ruthie. She is from a very Catholic family. Her father's a pastor, and something she did when she was a senior in high school has made her father very disappointed in her, and they don't have a relationship anymore. She works as a receptionist in a retirement home, and she's worked there for the past 6 years. She lives on the premises, and it's basically become her whole life. She dresses sort of like a little old person. She's very cute and very just innocent. Eventually one day she runs into a bad boy stranger at a gas station who insults her right off the bat. Of course, this bad boy stranger with the long hair and the motorcycle turns out to be the son of the owner of the retirement home that Ruthie works in. He ends up having to stay in this retirement home where she lives and help around the place because his father seems to think that he is going nowhere in life and that he needs to have a job. So it's very much forced proximity, enemies to lovers. It's really great. The story is very touching and beautiful, and I definitely enjoyed this one very much. Not as much as 99% Mine, but I think it's maybe my second favorite. So definitely pick up Sally Thorne's work if any of those books sounded intriguing to you. I promise you they're all worth the read. I absolutely love her, and I can't wait to read anything else she comes out with in the future. The next author that I would like to talk about is Emily Henry. You may have heard of her books before. She has Beach Readout, which I unfortunately don't have with me at the moment because my aunt is borrowing it, but I absolutely love that book and I do have a copy. And then my new favorite book of all time, People We Meet on Vacation. Beach Read, as most of you have probably heard of, as it is one of the most popular contemporary romance books out at the moment. It follows January, who is a romance author, and her father has recently passed away and left her the house that belonged to him and his mistress. She obviously feels very uncomfortable about this because she had not known that her father was cheating on her wife, doesn't know the story, and just feels very uncomfortable living in their sex shack, which I'm pretty sure is what she calls it or something like that. But she goes there to sort of go on a little writing retreat for herself since she's been in a little bit of a slump and she really needs to finish this new novel. This house just so happens to be right beside the beach house of her former nemesis from college, Gus, who is also now an author, and he writes more historical books that don't include any love. So basically the premise of this book is that they each decide, in order to get themselves out of this slump, to write a book about each other's genre. So Gus is going to try and write a romance book, and January is going to focus on something a little bit more historical and not as romancy. This book was absolutely wonderful. It's very much enemies to friends to lovers. It's beautiful. The setting is wonderful. It just goes very deep and allows you to form this great connection with the two characters and get to know them. It's a great summer read. I wish that I had been able to read it on a beach, but unfortunately I just read it in my house. But definitely pick it up this summer. I definitely recommend it. And yeah, it's a wonderful read. Moving on to this beautiful piece of fiction, People We Meet on Vacation is one of the only 5-star reads that I've had so far this year, which I did talk about in my mid-year book freakout tag. Poppy and Alex, who have been best friends since they started university together. They both discovered that they're from the same very small town, and they started off really not liking each other, but eventually they formed this really wonderful friendship. They have since gone on a vacation every summer since they met, and they have formed this wonderful friendship. Poppy works at this traveling blog slash magazine, and Alex is a teacher, so he has summers off and is able to travel with her, and they've gone to so many amazing places. But 2 years ago, something happened in Croatia that sort of really messed up their friendship, and in an attempt to salvage it, Poppy invites Alex on one last vacation to try and fix their friendship and bring them back together, because she has realized that her life has really not been the same and has not been great since she lost Alex in her life. This book was absolutely beautiful. I cried for a good portion of it. It deals with the issue of losing someone that's really important in your life and not knowing what to do without them, and they're just gone before you even know how to deal with not having them anymore. That's something I've dealt with. I'm sure that's something that lots of people have dealt with, and life changes and people leave and come back into your life, and it's just a lot to handle sometimes, and I really liked that this book dealt with that, and I was able to connect on that level. It was really beautifully written and well done. I loved watching them reconnect and form this amazing relationship, and it's just one of the most well-written books that I've read in years, and definitely a new favorite. So definitely check out Emily Henry's work. These two books are amazing, and hopefully she's working on something else soon. I know she has not been an author for that long. Beach Read, I think, only came out last year or the year before, so I'm sure she has stuff in the works, and I can't wait to read whatever she writes next. The third author I would like to talk about is Christina Lauren, which is actually an author duo, and they write just amazing rom-coms. So the first one I read is The Unhoneymooners, which I do not currently have with me. It is at my apartment, but I read it right after The Hating Game. I bought those two books to sort of get me into contemporary romance and out of my slump, and it definitely helped. And then we have My Favorite Half-Night Stand. The Unhoneymooners follows Olive, who is a twin, and at the wedding of her twin sister, every single person gets sick with food poisoning except for herself and the groom's best man, Ethan. Ethan and Olive do not get along. Olive thinks Ethan is just the worst man ever. He is just disrespectful and has always seemed to hate her for some reason, and she doesn't really understand. So they both just are enemies. They really don't like each other. And of course, they get stuck going on their friend's honeymoon because they are the only people able to go, and they spent money on it, so they want them to take the trip. On this trip, they have to pretend that they are married in order to get the trip, because otherwise they wouldn't be able to take it. So they run into Olive's new boss, as well as Ethan's ex-girlfriend or fiance, I don't remember, and they have to pretend to be married. And of course, they end up falling for each other. There is some drama that sort of ruins it a couple times, but it all works out. Obviously, it's enemies to lovers. Really great story. It really reminded me of Just Go With It, if anyone's seen that movie, with the whole pretending to be married sort of trope. But yeah, really great read. Really nice summary read, since I'm pretty sure they were in Hawaii. I'm pretty sure they went to Hawaii. It's been a little while since I read this book. I haven't read it since March, and again, I read it in a day because I just really enjoyed it. So definitely pick it up this summer. It's definitely got summery vibes, and yeah, really great read. My Favorite Half-Night Stand is about Millie and Reed, who are in the same friend group of professors at a university, and they all decide to join this dating app to try and find dates to the end of the year gala. Millie and Reed have always sort of had this tension together. They're really great friends, but there's always sort of been that will they, won't they with them. And at the very beginning of the book, they actually sleep together. They decide to just sort of forget about the whole thing and continue on with the dating app because they just feel like it might ruin the friendship. Millie makes this fake account on the dating app where she uses her middle name because the boys were all making fun of her for having this dating app that wasn't conventionally good looking, I guess. And she ends up matching with Reed on the dating app, thinking that he would just think it's a funny joke and realize it was her and they would just have a laugh about it. Turns out Reed is apparently not that smart. He doesn't realize that it's her, and they end up in this sort of awkward relationship on the dating app thing, and Millie thinks that it's been going on for too long for her to tell him that it's her, and it just ends up being this big, huge mess, and she doesn't really know how she's supposed to tell him that it's been her all along. Meanwhile, they're still sleeping together, and it's just a mess. There's no communication. Yeah, it's just a lot of drama, but really great book. Sort of friends to lovers, I guess, and then there's just the whole mess and catastrophe in between. Definitely worth the read though. It was slightly drama-filled and anxiety-filled as well. I definitely felt some stress reading this book, but overall, it's a great read. It's very enjoyable and comical, and yes, I've really been enjoying all of Christina Lauren's work so far. The last author I want to discuss in this video is Martha Waters, and I've read one of her books so far, which is To Love and to Loathe. I did also mention this book in my mid-year book freakout tag, but Martha writes rom-coms that are actually set in the 1800s. She has this one, and she also has To Have and to Hoax, which I have up there and am going to read throughout the summer. And I really enjoyed this book. It gave me super crazy Bridgerton vibes. It's very steamy, very cute and heartfelt. There's lots of representation, and it's a very woman, strong, empowerment sort of book as well. So our main character, Diana, is recently widowed, and she wants to let people know that she's back on the market and has to attend to her needs, and she needs a man to help her with that, apparently. So she wants to sort of get herself back on the market and let the men of the town know that she is available and ready to get back in the game. Her brother's best friend, Jeremy, who has sort of always had a little crush on Diana, comes to her and wants to strike a deal with her that they sort of hook up to make sure that he is doing things correctly in that department after someone criticized him of not being attentive of a woman's needs. So steamy there, as you can see. So he comes to her and asks for help, and what she'd get in return is letting people know that she's back on the market because Jeremy is an infamous rake. Everyone knows him as that, so if they find out that she has hooked up with him, then everyone will know that she is back in the game and wants to put herself back out there. It ends up being this really great friends to lovers story, very Bridgerton-y. It really gives me like Daphne and the Duke vibes. Especially with the brother's best friend sort of thing. It ends up being really heartfelt, and Diana is very empowered as a woman by the end. She knows what she wants, and she's not afraid to go after it. Yeah, it's just this really great story, and I really love anything set in the 1800s, so this one definitely spoke to me when I saw it. So definitely pick this up if you are a Bridgerton fan or a friend of any sort of historical romance. It's very good, and I'm very excited to get into more of Martha's works, and you should definitely pick this up if you enjoyed the description I just gave. So that's pretty much it for my romance recommendations. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope I introduced you to a book that you've never heard of before or have yet to get into, because all of these are just so worth the read, and I really hope I can inspire someone to read one of my favorites. If you did enjoy hearing me talk about these books, please give this video a like, give me a subscribe. I post bookish videos every Wednesday, and I would love to have some more members of this community. My socials are down below. I do post a lot on my Bookstagram. I have a book talk and a Twitter. Don't really use my Twitter that much, but if I had some more followers on there, maybe I would. So definitely check those out if you'd like to follow me over there. Thank you guys all so much for watching. I hope you had a fun time with me today. I'll see you in my next video. Bye!